Okay. So for the next section, we're going to now go and we're going to start a new worksheet. Okay, so we've saved this one and we're going to go file, close. And I'm just saving mine again. And I'm going to go file, new, and I click on blank workbook. Okay, so if you guys can do that as well, please. I'm hoping my computer stays because it's giving me low system resource errors here. Right. Right, so we're now starting activity 1.48. So the first thing we need to do, we need to type the information that's been given to us. And yet again, like I said, you need to, I'm going to zoom my screen. Okay. So you need to start it. Is my recording stopped now? All right. Right, so start typing the information. And remember, if you need to type in capitals, you need to put your caps lock on. Okay. I'll give you guys 5 minutes to complete typing that information. And then we can take it from there. So I'll pause the recording in the meantime. Okay. One thing you need to do, once you get to column D6, where you need to enter the telephone number, just watch on my screen. I'm going to enter the telephone number as the normal number. Okay. I'm going to enter in 084 567 8901. Okay. Just watch what happens with it. Can you see that the 0 in front of the 08 disappeared? Because the normal number rules dictate that there can't be a 0 in front of a number. Okay, so in order to capture that number correctly, you need to look at next to your enter key, there's an apostrophe. So you hit the apostrophe first. Can you see what the apostrophe looks like? Now you enter the cell phone number. So that effectively turns that into a piece of text. Can you see that little green box that popped up? So if you click on there, there's a little message that is available. And it tells you that this number in the cell is formatted as text or is preceded by an apostrophe. So it's effectively then changed the number into a piece of text. You understanding that? Okay, guys. So then you can continue. I'll pause the recording further and then we can just continue typing out our information. All right. Okay, guys, I've now completed capturing my information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing what we've been required to do for this activity. If you haven't completed it, it's fine, because remember, like I said, you can always catch the recording later, because I'll put it onto the YouTube channel that I'm going to create. So you'll be able to catch it there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, although the activity doesn't ask me to do it, I'm going to actually center the leadership seminars across the columns. So I'm clicking on A1, keeping my left click in until I get to H1. Then I release. I make sure that I'm on the home menu, and then I click merge and center. Okay, so that centers that across those columns. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I'm going to adjust the column widths to make sure, if you look, for instance, in column C, the campuses aren't displaying correctly. So I click on that column, and let me just put my annotation on again. Just take that out the way. Okay, so you can see here, I click on column C, that's selecting the column. I go to the right hand side and then I double click once I see that icon appearing. Okay. Similarly, column D, I click on the column, I go to the side, wait until I see that, and I double click. Okay. So now I've basically resized my columns. So the next thing we need to do is we need to type in a formula to create the total price. Okay. So what we need to do is we always start our formula with equals. So I go equals, and in this case, I'm starting with the 300. So I click on cell E6, and I'm multiplying it with F6. So I click on F6, and I hit enter. Okay. And I'm going to do the formula next to it as well, which is where I have to calculate 5% of the total price is the deposit amount. So I go equals, I click on G6, multiplied by 5%, and I hit enter. Okay, so now I've got both formulas there. So I select both cells, and remember the autofill handle I showed you guys in the first exercise. So you can then go to the autofill handle, wait until you see the plus sign appearing, and drag it down, and there you go. You've copied that to all the other cells as well. Okay, it makes it much easier to do it once you have two formulas next to each other that you want to copy down. If it's applying to all the rows, just do that. It's much easier. Okay, so once we've done that, we're actually done with this activity. Quick fix activity. So I'm going to again go into page layout. I'm going to put in my footer. I go into page setup grouping. I go into header footer, and I'm going to my custom footer. Okay, and I'm putting my name and surname as my left footer, and my activity number as my right footer. And I click OK. Right, and I click OK again. And then last but not least, I can go save my activity. File save as. And I'm saving mine under my documents, and I'm going to give it a name. That's called activity 1.48. I click save. Any questions on that, guys? You just need to unmute yourself if you need to ask a question. Hello, is anybody still there? Okay, I assume that there's no questions from your side. So shall we move on to activity 1.49? Right. So I'm going to close this spreadsheet. So I go File, Close. And I'm going to go again, File, New, and I go to Blank Workbook. Okay. And in this activity, remember, we always start by typing the information we need to type. Okay. So I'm going to zoom my screen again. And I start by typing all my information. Timberworks carpentry. Okay, can you see what mine done here? And this is what happened in class yesterday as well. What this is actually doing is it's actually turning that piece of text into a clickable item. So if I click on that item now, it will actually want to dial that number. Now I don't want that to happen. Okay, so I need to go. I'm going to just reformat that as a piece of text. So I'm going to go right in front of the tel, and I'm going to put an apostrophe next to it, and I click enter. Okay, now I need to then go and change the coloring on that. Change the font color to automatic. And I'm going to take the underlining off. I didn't change the coloring. Okay, so I put it back to what it's supposed to be as normal. Okay, got that. So then we can continue with our typing our information. I'll pause the recording while I continue typing. Okay, now I've got basically captured all my information, and now I can actually start doing what the activity requires me to do. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to make the following adjustments: merge and center the main heading across A1 to D1. Okay, so I click on A1 across to D1. I use my merge and center tool, and then it wants me to make it uppercase, make it bold, and it's got to be 14 point. So I change that to 14 point. Okay. Then I need to merge and center the subheadings in row 5 and row 6. So here, row 5, I got to merge and center. And row 6, I got to merge and center, right? And then I need to make those bold as well. Once I'm done doing that, I need to change my columns as required. Okay, so that means I need to look at all my columns and see where does the information not appear correctly. So in column A it doesn't appear correctly, so I'm going to double click on column A, resize that to match the biggest item within that. Okay, then I think column D also needs to be readjusted. So I click on column D and then I double click on the column width. Okay, now we've got that. So now we can move on to the next one. Now it says we need to format all monetary values to display currencies with 2 decimals, rands and cent. Okay, and the way we do that, I showed you earlier, we go into the number format grouping and we're going to click on currency. Sorry, my mistake. I need to make sure I'm in the right place. So in this case here by price, I select those cells. I go to the number grouping. I click on currency. And then I can, because it wants me to have it to 2 decimal places, it's fine there where I have it at the moment. And I click OK. Okay, so that now formats that. And then I can do similarly with the pricing in the sundry costs. I click on there, and the currency, and I set it there. Okay. Okay, just to answer your question, Sianda, basically what I've done is I first went to make sure I set the text works carpentry across all the different columns. Remember, that's the golden rule when you're doing the resizing of your columns. So when I'm resizing column A, it's only going to resize it up to the maximum of, you see here in row 20, the screws and labor total. It basically resizes it up to the maximum of that. Because if I had to resize it for the carpentry, it would have been much bigger. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Yes, thanks. So I got it.
All right. Okay, so the next thing we need to do once we've done making that currency is we need to put in some formulas. Okay, so we're clicking in cell D10. And the first thing we need to do is we need to calculate. It's B10 times C10. So I go equals. So B10 times C10. Enter. Okay. And then I use my autofill handle to complete that. All right. Once I've done that, the second bullet point says we need to put in the chipboard total. And in order to do that, there's 2 ways of doing it. Okay. One is I can actually type in the formula as they're showing it to me there. Okay. Which is equals sum. I'll show you both ways. Open the bracket, D10, and then I use my semicolon, and then D13. Okay, and I close my bracket. So that automatically highlights for me the cells that are included in my formula. I hit enter. Okay, so that's the one way of doing it. There's a shorter cut that I can actually use. So I'm going to delete the one that I just created. and I'm going to use the shortcut tool. Okay. If you look up here, there's an auto sum, the sigma sign. Okay. If you click on that, what you can do is actually can select the amounts you want to add up and the row that you want to include your total in. Okay. And then you click on your sigma sign. It'll automatically put it in the last block that you have there. You can also do this. I'm going to delete that again. I click on the cell where I want to have my formula, and then I just click on my sigma sign. It automatically puts that formula in for me, and I hit enter. Okay, so that's 3 ways of doing it. Similarly, let me do the formulas for the sundry costs. It's equals column B18 times C18, enter. Use my autofill handle to drag it down to the next one. And then I use my sigma sign to calculate my screws and labor total. And I hit enter. Okay. So now to get to my subtotal is effectively the chipboard total plus the screws and labor cost total. Okay. So if I had to highlight that, it would be that one there plus that one over here. Okay, so those two you want to add together. Okay, so I'm going to go equals, and I click on my first cell, I go plus, and I click on my second cell, and I hit enter. Okay, you can do it that way, or you can go the alternative way, which is to actually type equals sum. Okay, I click on the first one, I use my comma, and I click on the second one. In my case, my thing doesn't like commas, it wants to have a semicolon. This is where the differences in whichever version of Microsoft Excel you're using comes in, because some will accept the comma, the others will accept the semicolon. But we can talk about that in class, because on campus you'll only use the comma. Okay. So that gives you that total there. Now to calculate the VAT, it's again equals, and I'm clicking on my subtotal times 15%, and I hit enter. So that's my VAT being calculated. Then I can go again to my sigma total to add up those two to get my total, because my subtotal plus my VAT equals my grand total. Okay, so it's only selected the one, so I need to select both there. So I click on enter. All right. So that's that. And the last thing we need to do, we need to second last thing, we need to do a spell check on our document. So when you do a spell check, you can do it from anywhere, but I would suggest you go to cell A1 and you go F7. Okay. And then you can check, and you see I typed in chipboard incorrectly. So I'm going to change that. Screws I've also typed in incorrectly. And carpenters I also typed in incorrectly. So I can change those. Okay. Now it tells me I'm all good to go. So my spell checking has been completed. What was the alternative way of getting to your spell checking? Is to go into your review grouping. Hello, take it out of the way there. Go into the review grouping, and there on the left-hand side is the same like in Microsoft Word, the spell checking. Okay, so that's the 2 ways of getting there. Okay, so the last thing we need to do, we need to put those nice fancy borders that they've got there. I click on home, I go to my borders group, my borders tool, sorry, and I'm going to use the one that says top and double bottom border. Okay, that's a nice fancy one for, especially for sums. And I'm going to use that for the same one at the screws and labor total. And I'm going to also use that for my grand total. Okay. So then this activity is done. So we can then put in our name and surname as a footer. Again, we go into page layout, page setup. Okay, our recording is almost coming to an end again. And we go into a header footer. And we're doing a custom footer. And in the left section, we're going to type in our name, surname. And in the right section, we're putting in the activity number. Activity 1.49. Click OK. And OK again. All right. Guys, I don't know how your timing is. Do you want me to continue? Or do you want me just to continue with the recordings of the other videos? And I just send you the links afterwards. Because I'm going to continue basically with activity 1.50 and 1.51. And then we will start on campus on activity 1.52 for everybody. Is that okay with you guys?
I think you can continue with the recording, so then you can just send it to us.
Okay.
On the
Yeah, because otherwise every time we just gotta keep on dialing in, dialing out. It's not feasible. So I'll do the recordings and I'll send it to you guys later. Okay. Thanks guys for joining. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Same to you, sir.
Okay. Bye.